Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Butterfly Effect podcast, and today's video has been requested by our patrons, so thank you very much to them and enjoy. Right, so today's video is Walking Dead hot takes. So we asked you guys on the channel a few weeks ago, but we've also asked on Reddit as well, any Walking Dead hot takes. It's been a while since we've covered this series and we wanted to see what you guys thought on it. So mate, I'll throw it over to you to take it away.
Lovely. So I'm going to go straight in here with like the top one on the YouTube, which states that Kenny's death or leaving hit harder than Lee's death. And I guess it is a matter of perspective, but I would say this is a hot take because I think, Lee's death counts as like one of the saddest moments in gaming history. So that does take a lot. So I do agree. I think it depends what death. Like if you're talking season 3's Kenny death, absolutely not. But I can see it. That scene where he leaves you at Wellington, that's pretty impactful. And then the scene where, if you pick Jane over him and you shoot him, and then he kind of says, oh, yeah, you make the right decision, and, I'm proud of you, Clem, or whatever it is. It's pretty big. And because we know Kenny over a longer period of time, that's a pretty valid opinion, Pug Dude. So, although I will say that I think the Lee one hit me a lot harder, I'll say that is a really good hot take and one that I do find valid.
I'll tell you what, on my end, I was thinking before this video, cool, I'm not sure I've got any Walking Dead hot takes, but actually Pug Dude has just offered one, that I agree with right off the bat, because I actually do think that, yeah, maybe not the death in season 3, that's just more annoying, if anything. But whether it's him dying, because he gives you the little speech, doesn't he, like when Clem shoots him, or if you let Jane kill him, it sort of, he tells you like almost like a fatherly figure, oh, it's okay, you made the right decision. Or whether he leaves you in Wellington, again, it's like he's doing the right thing. He's making sure that the young'uns are okay and well fed and sheltered and stuff. So I completely agree. You have more time with Kenny. Not to say that Lee's death isn't sad, but it didn't hit me anywhere near as much as Kenny. So I'm with you there, Pug Dude. Moving on to the next one on the channel, from Pokeminer, who says, Season 3 was my favourite season. Now, speaking for me personally, I've only played Michonne Season 3 and Season 4 once, so naturally I do have a bias towards the first and second seasons. But even at this point, I probably would say that is a hot take. Not that I thought that Season 3 was bad, but I just felt that the earlier Walking Dead games were just far stronger, although, like I say, that opinion could change over time. But I do appreciate that what they tried to do, they tried to give us a new protagonist, a new family, different dynamics. I think Season 3 was really the game when the visuals started to improve in the Walking Dead series as well. So I'm glad to hear that it has its fans, because most of the time you do hear this one get shat on quite a bit, don't you?
Yeah, I do agree. And I like the fact that you're backing this season, Pokeminer. I think, from perspective, I'm a season 1 fan. That's the one that just has my heart because it's where it all started. But you know what? Like, I would say maybe I struggled to connect to like the main bulk of cast, although it really had some fascinating side characters, which I really liked in that game. But you know what? If you want sort of branching and choices, Season 3 might actually be the best one. So if you want branching choices, good story in it, then you know what, Pokeminer, very good hot take, and one that, I think has merit to it as well. So next, I'm going to go for Jonathan Jimbo, one of our longtime fans. So thank you for commenting in, mate. I enjoyed Season 1 the least, and that Michonne was your favourite season out of 1, 2, 3 itself. Definitely a hot take, because I see a lot of people, dog on Michonne. But Season 1, enjoyed the least. Now, branching, it might be the weakest. As the games have aged, you might look back at Season 1 in a certain way. But I don't know, it is that, we talk about recency bias, but I think you have the opposite for like the historical bias. That is the game that made me fall in love with Lee, Clementine, kind of reignited the kind of like the genre to an extent, to the point it won Game of the Year for a lot of award givers. So I would definitely say it's one I disagree with, but I love the fact that you've gone ahead and voiced that, Jonathan.
Yeah, I've got to say, I also disagree with this, because The Walking Dead Season 1 was my entry point into choice-based games. I know people can dispute whether it is a choice-based game or not. But at the time, you are going in blind, and I didn't know about Heavy Rain. I didn't know anything about these sort of more, sophisticated games that were around the corner, like Until Dawn. I absolutely adore season 1. The characters, some of the arcs that people go on, even like episode 2. I mean, if we was ever to do like an episode ranking of all of the Walking Dead episodes, I think episode 2 of season 1 is probably going to come top. If not, it's certainly getting a medal position. It sticks out in my mind so much that I love it. But a little bit of good news for you, Jonathan, is that in the next few weeks I will be streaming Michonne, so you'll get to see your favourite Walking Dead game once again, so you have to look out for that. Okay, so next up we've got a comment from Tatjana, who says Kenny is overrated. He's a fascinating character and I would like him much more if it weren't for his fans, because the way some don't even want to acknowledge his flaws is really worrying in my opinion. His flaws are what make him so interesting in the first place. I also think Jane gets way too hated for 1, 2 stupid decisions that she made, while Kenny is instantly forgiven for all of this. It's weird because I'm apart from you saying that he's overrated, Tatjana, I'm basically in agreement with you. He certainly has flaws, but I think that's the fascinating thing with Kenny, is that, at least from my perspective, I think his intentions are relatively pure, in the sense that he is taking on that father figure role and he's ultimately looking out for the group, whatever group he is in, right? And especially when it comes to Clem and the children, and his wife, of course, or and his girlfriend in the next one. But we do see these flaws, and that makes him a more well-rounded, three-dimensional character. We see his decline, like from the first game all the way into as far as the 3rd season. If you take him that far, you see his decline in like character and his overall enthusiasm to sort of stay alive, and just like his, I don't know, you just see the guy start to slowly sap away. And I think it's sort of like the tragedy is almost what could potentially be appealing to some people as well, like seeing this guy from trying to ultimately failing at the end. So yeah, I mean, there's a whole video on Kenny waiting to be done, and I'm sure we'll cover it one day. But I wouldn't say he's overrated, but he is arguably the strongest character in all of Walking Dead, in my opinion. So yeah, I've got high opinions of him.
Yeah, so thank you for commenting this one in, Tatjana. And yeah, like I have to plug our previous video where we did a Kenny versus Jane debate, because Jack's team Kenny, I'm team Jane. I actually also sided with Lily in the early stages of season 1, because for me the salt lick drop was just unforgivable, and from that point I just couldn't fully get on board with Kenny. But ultimately, I think it is a matter of perspective again, and I almost compared it to, do you like cats or dogs? None's necessarily the right answer, but people have different styles. I do agree though, because when we put out that debate, there were a lot of comments and a lot of people in the polls that were just absolutely gung-ho for Kenny, and were like, why are you even posting this? It's Kenny, 100%. So I do get your point that a lot of Kenny fans refuse to acknowledge his flaws, and it's a shame, because I think the character of Kenny was written as this grey, flawed individual, which makes him such a terrific character. So I will agree with Jack that I'll disagree with the statement that he is overrated, because in terms of writing, I think Kenny's incredible. But I do agree, I think it is a fair comment that a lot of Kenny fans just don't acknowledge his flaws, because, god damn it, there are a load of them. But we love Kenny for that. Next up, I'm going to tackle the one from JT Jew, who says, I didn't really like either of Clem's romantic choices in season 4. I liked them as people, but neither romance was really believable. I quite like the fact that you do get a romance choice in season 4. I think it's cool as well that you get the choice of a guy and girl, depending, on what your preference is. And I like the choice as well, you can ignore both and choose to still have Clementine as this lone wolf. I think it's believable in the sense that Clem is of that age where she's potentially looking for romance. But yeah, like, it's a valid opinion. Louis and Violet, potentially, she's just met them. You could argue that neither is a really great fit for Clementine. So, you know what, JT Jew, I take your point, and I think again it's a very valid hot take.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same camp. My memory on season 4 is a little fuzzy, but what I can say is that I almost see Clementine in the same vein as like Max Caulfield. The female protagonist who I can't necessarily ship with anyone. You see potentials, you see people that their game wants you to consider, but ultimately there's just something about Clementine. Maybe it's because of the story that we've been given, maybe it's something in the writing where I just don't necessarily see that side to her. I see her as more as a survivor than a sort of a romanticizer in this world. So it's a little bit difficult for me to almost put her in that hole with being with someone. So in essence, yeah, I'm in complete agreement with you. So the next comment from Uma Puma says, Season 1 only did well because Walking Dead was rife and we didn't have a major choice-based game since Heavy Rain. These games would be looked at poorly in today's climate. This is an interesting one because I think that last sentence there, I do think you are on the money. When we think of games such as The Expanse in recent years, of course, the story was better in The Walking Dead. But in terms of the branching, we know that The Expanse was pretty poor. And it really, I think the Season 1 TellTale Walking Dead, a lot of the heavy lifting is done through its story and through its characters. So I do see where you're coming from. It's like I said before, though, I think I have a bias towards this game. A, because I think it's just a good game full stop. But I think it's my entry point into this genre. So I naturally have a bit more of a soft spot to it, and I didn't know about Heavy Rain at that point. But I think the distance between the two games was just a matter of a couple of years, right? So, yeah. And also, as a final thing on that is that I actually have never watched an episode of The Walking Dead. So I came into this with maybe zero expectations on how the game was going to play out. But, yeah, you know what? I think on the whole, I think you have got a very solid point there, Uma.
I do agree as well, because I think you look at the competitors of these choice-based games, and for me especially at the time, I know there are a bunch of different ones out there, but Quantic Dream were the only sort of real competitors that did it before, from what I saw. And with Quantic Dream, they're not rushed by publishers. They'll release a game with far gaps in between them, and they are high quality, but they don't come out enough. And TellTale just came at such a money time where it did really well. But this was before Supermassive Games came on the scene with Until Dawn, and before Don't Nod came on the scene with Life is Strange. But those games have almost tried to evolve, and they've done it very well in my opinion. TellTale haven't, and you just have to look at what happened to their company to kind of really sort of just see that the proof is in the pudding. They didn't evolve, and it costed them because sales absolutely tanked eventually. So Uma, yeah, I mean they're hot takes, but I'm agreeing with a lot of these, Chuck.
Yeah, I've got to say, so am I.
Next up, we're gonna discuss this one by Amazing Rich. You people on here overhate Ben way too much. He's not that bad of a character. In fact, he's pretty relatable. Now, it is very true. Ben is just such a fascinating character because his intentions are good, but he's so sloppy, clumsy, makes mistakes. But, there is his age factor that he's probably in the realm of 16, 17, that it's almost forgivable. Pardon me. We did a whole video on him, which we encourage you guys to check out. I'll leave it in the description for you all. But in a nutshell, we kind of just touch base on the fact that, yeah, he his intentions are good, but he was killing off characters left, right, and centre to the point that it was only a matter of time before he was about to kill Clementine. So if you was to drop him at the church tower, I would almost look at you and think, I do get it, because he was really harming the group. Although you could argue he was just the wrong place at the wrong time. But I do agree that Ben hate, potentially really unwarranted when you do consider his age.
Yeah, I think this character is a fascinating one. I think that's why we did the video on it, because there's things that you could argue either way. I think I wouldn't categorise myself as a Ben hater, far from it. But I would lean on the side where I'm more against him than I am for him. because there's just several instances. Like, first of all, there is the bandits. Of course, he's been put in a situation where they're threatening him, but you're telling me that there was not one instance with all of them, way back in the trees where he could have whispered to someone, we need to get out of here. There's also the other instance where I think it's episode 4 when like Clem's about to get ambushed, and this is really the one where I sort of think no, this is not forgivable. Where she's about to get ambushed and he just looks at her and then starts to run away. And I think it might be in the same episode 4, where he's ultimately responsible for like a couple of the people getting killed in the school. So he is a bit of a liability. But what I do want to emphasize is I love the fact that he gets that speech to Kenny in episode 5. If you do keep him alive all the way up to that point, he does get that moment where he gets to voice himself, because we haven't really had that throughout the rest of the game so far. So yeah, I feel like of all the hot takes so far, perhaps this is the one where it's a little bit more murky for me, because I can see both sides. But I would potentially say that I come down on the opposite side to you on this particular instance, Amazing Rich. Okay, so the next one we've got from Goofball says, Luke and Jane getting it on actually didn't ruin anything for me. A lot of people say it was out of character for Luke/Jane, but I see it as totally reasonable. I mean, like 3 years in Apocalypse, I would have done what Luke had been doing too. Yeah, for me, it was not necessarily a case of like being against it. It's that it felt like it came out of nowhere a little bit. Maybe that's my poor observation, but I didn't really see a spark between Luke and Jane. But do you know what I mean? Like, it's the apocalypse, like, you want a bit of relief. I don't necessarily blame them for what they're doing. Maybe the fact that it was in a bit of an open space, there's children around, could be a little bit more careful on that front. But, it's not something to hold against them too much. So yeah, I'm actually with you on this, Goofball. I feel like if they are getting hate, I've not seen it personally, but if they are getting hate for this one action, then I don't think it's very warranted.
Yeah, Goofball, I'm sorry, man, but for me, this isn't a hot take. If a girl similar to my age bracket offers me that in the middle of the apocalypse, I'm taking it, despite what Kenny may say, despite the fact we're trying to find the room for a baby to be delivered. I don't care, I'm human, I'm doing what Luke did. Next up, we're going to go for one that I actually feel pretty passionate about. I've voiced it on the channel a few times. Inspired, I Admit My Crime. You put a lot in there, and I appreciate it, but we are going to cherry pick one out. We're going to cherry pick your 4th one, Carlos is overhated. Now, I am typically a really big Carlos hater on this channel, and I do get it, because he is really protective of Sarah, but it inevitably gets Sarah killed. And I think she is the example of what would have happened to a kid in the apocalypse if Lee wasn't there for Clementine, someone who would have not been prepped for the world. I think it speaks volumes of how the world is changed, and you need to kind of like teach these kids survival skills. And Sarah didn't have any of that. And I think Carlos overprotecting a girl who I assume has a learning disability or is autistic, I think Carlos needed to put those lessons in. And it's absolutely telling that when Carlos passes away, or even in sort of season 3 in a prison scene, she gets people killed. She just does not have the tools to kind of cope with anything, and it is really sad to see Sarah die, and I think that could have been preventable if Carlos pulled his finger out a little bit and wasn't so overprotective. So I kind of disagree with you. I think Carlos does justify the hate, although I get it, it must be really difficult being a parent of a potentially vulnerable child. So no, I do get it. I admit my crime.
Yeah, I mean, I do think he probably is on the overhated side, in my opinion. So I'm probably with you there. But I would dovetail to what Liam was just saying there, that I think Sarah is a character that she is almost there to represent what Clementine could have been had she not adapted, had she not met Lee and sort of the circumstances. When we first meet her, she's stuck up in a tree, isn't she? And obviously throughout the game she then gets taught things, how to shoot a gun, how to cut your hair. Sarah's not had these lessons, and you can see it, and it's in her character. She's incredibly shy, and actually she becomes sort of like a vulnerability for Carlos, and I think Carver reads into that and that's how he was able to manipulate the events, when they were trapped in that prison place, in episode 3 in season 2. So yeah, I mean, it must be difficult. He's a father, he's not got the support of like a wife or anything to help him. However, he maybe should have been a little bit more tuned in as to how to help his daughter out for the long term. And the final comment we've got here is from Due Relationship 4820, who said, Sam Fairbanks, best female character. I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't even remember Sam Fairbanks, so much so that I'm gonna have to Google live now as we're recording this video to trigger some sort of memory. Yeah, so I do not remember this character. So immediately that was already going to be a hot take. But on top of that, I think just it's fair to say, or at least in my opinion, it is that Clementine is the best female character in the Walking Dead series. But it's a matter of personal taste. It's glad that some of these lesser known characters are put out there and they've got the love. So fair play, Due Relationship.
Yeah, the only thing I really remember about Sam is that she sticks out for Michonne. She's like the older sister that really tries to look after her brother, and she did have that protective quality. But yeah, unfortunately, it is the Michonne game. She's pitted up against some really great characters such as Clementine, Carly, so yeah, like I'm probably going to end up disagreeing with this one. But I love the fact that you voiced that, so thank you very much for commenting it on the video.
So there we go, guys. That was obviously our reaction to some of the hot takes you sent in. Naturally, we couldn't get round to all of them, so we apologise for that. But thank you very much to everyone that did send in a hot take. We tried to cover as broad a subjects as possible because there were a few repeat questions in here. And, drop in the comments. Maybe you've got more hot takes. Maybe you wanted to react to our reactions. Who knows? One little final thing from me is that we will be covering Walking Dead Michonne, so we will be meeting Sam Fairbanks again, funnily enough, very soon. So do keep an eye out on the channel for any notifications on that front. What about from you, mate? Anything?
Nah, just, yeah, like Jack mentioned, tune in for Michonne because I'm really intrigued to get back into like the later games because we've covered Season 1, Season 2. If you want to watch our playthroughs or our analysis, you can find them on the channel. But yeah, I recommend liking and subscribing because I'm really confident you guys are going to love this channel if you do love TellTale Walking Dead content. So thank you very much for joining.
Thanks, guys. Catch you later.